So we're starting day 2 of NaNoWriMo, and we are currently at just after 6 o'clock in the evening. I had to get a little bit of a late start today, so I had some trouble that I had to deal with, and so hopefully that's all dealt with. But I went ahead and last night I just updated a couple things. First of all, for day 1, I wrote in my synopsis, just so, I think if we're going to do NaNoWriMo in this template, we should keep track of where we are. And right now, we left us off with him having no place to sleep. So that's where we'll pick up today. And then just regarding our tracking elements here, I went ahead and pre-filled in my pre-session just to kind of get an idea of what I want to do. So my main accomplishment today is to get them through the night and to get them to the play the next day. And so in my notes, I wrote down that I'm not entirely sure how likely they would practice before the live crowd, or if they would practice on the boat. Because figure this is mid 18th century, which is like what I kind of figured about 1753. It's about the year I'm thinking. Could be anywhere in that decade, but they don't have fast travel, so it's not like they can practice in France and then perform in New York. Vice versa, boat rides are week long, weeks and maybe even month long adventures. And so I would think maybe they practice on the boat, but I'm not entirely sure what the logistics were for those days, or even if they traveled at all. So there's a lot that I'm kind of messing with as far as the possibility that they might not actually do what I'm having them do. But then this is fiction, so who's to say they can't? But that said, I am going to for now assume that they would perform in front of a live audience the following night from coming in to the island, but my research may prove differently in time, so that may change in the future. But for the case of NaNoWriMo, we're going to plot it as if they're ready. So that's my thing. Anyway, so again, our target word counts to be 2,000. It doesn't need to be 2,000 words this time because we had a pretty good run yet last night, almost at 2,500. But I don't want to predict another 2,500 word night because I just don't know how the day is going to go. But that said, let's go ahead and get started on the writing. I'm already queued up on my font and everything, so we'll see. Okay, so we want to go ahead and explore Curacao just a little bit, just so the reader is familiar with the land. So, see, Jack Halgren left the gambling den and entered what looked like, let's see, an unsafe, hold on, let's do this. I wanted to kind of set up the place that's really friendly as long as the sun's out. Willemstad, Curacao, in the year of 1753 is a reasonably safe place to walk as long as the sun is out and the people are inside. Once the sun goes down, however, anything can happen, and Jack Halgren, let's see, people were inside. Once the sun, it's just everything passing. So Willemstad, Curacao, in the year 1753 was a reasonably safe place to walk about. Is reason to about 4 a walk. Willemstad, Curacao, in the year of 1753 was a reasonably safe place to walk. Safe place for a walk. Now I'll just go to 2 walk. How about this? The streets of Willemstad, Curacao in the year. It's a nice place to walk as long as the sun was out and the people were inside. their homes. Once the sun went down, however, anything could happen. Jack Halgren. Let's see. This is what Jack Halgren had come to believe the moment he had stepped off the charter. I don't know what the heck they're calling it. Stepped off. It was just the galley. The moment he had stepped off the galley at port. When he and his troop had made port earlier that afternoon. Okay. This just wants out in the air. It's a reasonably safe place to walk as long as the sun was out and the people were inside their homes. Once this happened, this is what Jack Howard had come to believe with the moment he had stepped off the galley. When his, he had not yet experienced a different outcome, but he trusted his source, an old traveler that he had met in Havana let's see, would it be a week? 2 weeks earlier. I think that's probably enough time to get. When he trusts his source, an old he had met in Havana 2 weeks earlier. And so he, let's see, left the gambling den with one hand over his pocket and the other balled into a fist. All right. The galley when he's having experienced the income, but he trusts this source of information. I'll probably admit. 2 weeks earlier, and so he left the gambling den with one hand. Let's see who had the scratch marks on his face to prove it. And so he left the gambling den with one hand over his pocket and the other balled into a fist. Fortunately, he didn't have to use his fist at any point between the den and the market. A few blocks away, the locals would stare at him as he passed, checking out his face, his fist, and his pocket. Probably because they wanted what was in his pocket, or maybe because they wondered why he was walking around with his hands clenched so tightly. As an actor, he made it his job to read people's thoughts, and he was certain these people wanted his pocket change, even if none of them were making any moves toward him or his pocket, or even making the effort to beg for coin, as was the custom that other islanders or other natives from other territories had shown. Let's see. Past, checking out his face, his fist in his pocket, probably because they wanted what was in his pocket, or maybe because they wondered why he was walking. Hands clenched steadily. As an actor, he made his job to read people's thoughts, and he was certain these people wanted his pocket change. Let's see, and going by their eye line, he was certain these people wanted his change, even if none of them were making moves toward him. But he knew that was what they wanted, even if it was possible that they just wanted to go home without getting mugged themselves. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I want to describe the streets of Curacao. As he walked through the narrow avenues, he smiled as the cool ocean breeze washed over him. Everywhere in Curacao was just minutes from the shore. Just an hour's walk or less from the shore. But he, let's see, but I don't know if they're hotel. We're going to call them hotels for now. I don't know what they're actually called at this time. Just say the hotel that he and his troop were planning to stay at tonight was right along the wharf. And the closer he got to it, the stronger the breeze to his face. The stronger and cooler the breeze to his face. As he walked through the narrow avenues, he smiled as the cool ocean breeze washed over him. Everywhere in Curacao was just an hour's walk or less from the shore, but the hotel that he and his troop were staying... Actually, maybe they're already staying. It was right along the wharf, and the closer he got to it, the stronger and cooler the breeze. Maybe it was to his face. First draft, folks. It's not supposed to be good. And I commend you if you're actually watching me write this right now. I'm not waiting for the end result, which, again, may be 2, 3, 4, 10 years from now, who knows? No idea. This problem, we have an idea that's really good, but not enough background on the history or the location to really make the most of it. So this is all kind of shoddy, I admit. But again, no writing is ever good at its first pass. So again, you guys are awesome if you're watching this far. Let's see. It was didn't where hold on. You know what, let's go back to day one real quick. Let's see how we ended. Sometimes it's a good idea just to get a little bit of extra perspective here. So Jack smiled as he watched 5 men clutch their stomachs in their chest, blah blah blah. Okay. But he was likely not to sleep in a comfortable room, as he would need 6 guilders to sleep in a nice room. Who knows if that's true? He glanced at the table. The game master was taking an extra round of bets. If he played just one more round, he could earn back the extra guilder. A good night's sleep. Then he would call it quits for the evening with 4 more guilders to spare. Thought it'd be a safe bet. He returned to the table and bet on the middle shell, placing just 1 guilder on the pile. The pearl appeared on the right shell this time. Jack clearly didn't understand the shell game quite as well as he had assumed, so he left the den before he could cause himself more damage tonight. Streets of Williams Sikarsu in the year of 1753. Maybe just, no, we don't need of. Streets of Williams Sikarsu in the year of 1753 was a reasonably safe place to walk as long as the sun was out and the people were inside their homes. Once the sun went down, however, I think it happened. This is what Jack Halgren had come to believe the moment he had stepped off the galley when he and his troop had made port earlier that afternoon. He had not yet experienced a different outcome, but he trusted his source of information, an old traveler he had met in Havana 2 weeks earlier, who had the stretch marks on his face to prove it. How about to prove he knew what he was talking about? And so Jack left the gambling den with one hand in his pocket and the other ball into a fist. Fortunately, he didn't have to use his fist at any point between the den and the market. A few blocks away, the locals... how about this? Fortunately, it appeared. It soon appeared he wouldn't. There we go. Fortunately, it soon appeared he wouldn't have to use his fist at any point between the den and the market a few blocks away. The locals would stare at him as he passed. Maybe we'll say sure. It's a conversationally thriller here. Fortunately, it soon appeared he wouldn't have to use his fist at any point between the den and the market a few blocks away. Sure, the locals would stare at him as he passed, checking out his face, his fist, and his pocket, probably because they wondered what was in his pocket, or maybe because they wondered why he was walking around with his hands clenched so tightly. As an actor, he made it his job to read people's thoughts and going by their eye line, about which which served as the accent point for their thoughts about the let's use a fancy term, as served as the, is it the exegesis? What is crap, I already forgot the term. When you, oh, the egress point, that's what I want. Okay. Fortunately, it soon appeared he wouldn't have to use his fist at any point between the den and the market a few blocks away. Sure, the locals would stare at him as he passed, checking out his face, his fist, and his pocket, probably because they wondered what was in his pocket, or maybe because they wondered why he was walking around with his hands clenched tightly. As an actor, he made it his job to read people's thoughts and going by their eye line, which served as the egress point for their thoughts. He was certain these people wanted his pocket change, even none of them were making any moves toward him or his pocket, or even making the effort to beg for coin, as was the custom that other natives from other territories had shown. But he knew that that coin, that coin was what they wanted, even if it was possible that they also just wanted to go home without getting mugged themselves. Let's see. keep himself safe, he assumed he assumed the first likelihood was the correct one. Okay. That way, if anyone did try to rob him and destroy his pocket, he would be ready for the attack. Of course, he had yet to learn any defensive move against attack or any effective against attack. In his years studying to be an actor, against attack in his years of studying. As every play he had performed and was built strictly on the act of talking and not so much on the act of fighting or even acting. Okay. Let's see. Of course, he didn't learn any of it. So he wasn't sure if his knowledge or his defensive measure would actually keep him out of trouble. Perhaps he thought it was better just to walk really fast. There we go. Which means, we'll say, has he moved, or does he... We want something even better. Actually, we'll say, has he jogged? Because let's say he's probably... Yep, I think we're just going to assume he's on the move now. So as he jogged through the narrow avenues toward the market, he smiled. Let's see. The cool ocean breeze washed over him, and it made him smile. So John did near avenues toward the market. The cool ocean breeze washed over him and made him smile. Everyone curious to is just an hour's walk or less from the shore. The sea is better. I'm telling you. Alright, so I'm going to push this down a bit because I don't really need this line here if he's still on his way to the market. So he wasn't sure of his defensive measure. Actually keep him out of trouble. Perhaps he thought it was better just to walk really fast. As he jogged through the narrow avenues toward the market, the cool ocean breeze washed over him and it made him smile everywhere in Kirisu. It's just an hour. By the way, just so you all know, I know how to spell Kirisu properly. If I were using Microsoft Word, I would just use the control comma and do the C, because then that would do a special mark. I don't think I can do that in Scrivener though. Yeah, see, if I do control comma, I just pull that up. So that's not going to work. So if I want to actually do the proper spelling, I would need to do some kind of insert key, and I don't know if I have that ability or not. Let's see, options, no. Script writing, it doesn't really help. Oh, maybe text, is that what I want? Nope, font. So maybe I want edit, insert. I know there's something in Scrivener that actually lets you put in the proper word or proper icon. I'm not entirely sure how to do that. It's not text, that's a box. View, I don't think we need view. Yeah, it should be edit and insert or... Oh, character map might be it. Let's see. Is that what we want? It did nothing. Why did that not do... Oh, hold on. It's loading. Are we going to get a character map to show up? Maybe? Character map. Does that not do what we want? Oh, there it is. Okay. So yeah, what we actually need is... Let's see. It's this letter over here. Or do we even have it in the Scrivener? I don't know. What we don't want is Arial. We want to go in our tippy-tappy type. Ah, there it is. Hold on, I see it. Get out of the way. This is what we want. But we want the lowercase version of that. I think that's capital letter. So the U plus 00C7 is the hotkey. I'm not going to remember that. Word, even though I like Scrivener a lot, I think Word does insert a lot better. I don't even know if I have... Oh, there it is. All right, so this is what I actually need. So, it's Alt 0231. Alt 0231. Okay, select. Oh, I don't want to. All right. We'll do Alt 0231. So Alt 0231. That was pointless. I gotta hold it down. Maybe Alt 0231. Do I just hit Alt and then 0231? Wow, I don't even know what's going on here. Do I need to do the number key? Alt 0231. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. So you use the number key, not the thing on the top row there. So this is the proper way of spelling carousel. Whenever you're doing actual formatting. I'm not going to probably do that for the Scrivener version. So I'm just going to keep it normal because, the word check accepts that. And honestly, I don't think it really matters. Most people don't even know that's the case. But anyway, I just want to make the point. I know how to spell it properly. I just, it's complicated to remember all that. If I were using Word, I would just use Control, comma, and then C. And then we'll do it. Anyway, all right. Let's keep going. As he jogged through the narrow avenues toward the market, the cool ocean breeze washed over him and it made him smile. Everyone Kirisu was just an hour's walk or less from the sea. How about this and that? Included the, we'll call it the Keystone Market, where he and his troop had gathered together for lunch shortly after departing the galley. It was possible that the island had other places for them to eat, but he was getting hungry and he didn't want to end up getting lost in some network of shacks, or shanties rather, shanties, and want to end up getting lost in some network of shanties far away from the nearest bakery. Okay. Which he knew with certainty that the market had. Again, in my research, I might show that none of this is true. But for now, we're going to pretend it is, because, you know, fiction. Alright, so currently at over 500 words. We're not doing very good progress tonight, are we? This is going a little slower than we did last night, but that's part of the, I think, the struggle with doing actual setting details is settings. You really got to get a picture of what the place looks like. You need to get the sensibility of the town and the people, and you don't want to spend so long on it that you bore the reader or waste your own time. But so I'm probably going to just blitz through this. But, you know, again, I might jazz up a bit better in the future. We'll see. Feeling the ocean breeze on his face as he got nearer to fresh baked bread made losing half of his guilders at the gambling den seem less not destructive, seem just a bit more tolerable than if he had to instead walk through a rat-infested dirt path within 10 feet of the town's sewage, not lines, sewage ditches. No, okay. This is why I don't write historical. I swear, I always keep it in the modern because I have no idea just how inaccurate my details are. I'm sure that I'm like way off right now. Boy, one of you out there is, you know, an expert on 18th century Caribbean life, and you're screaming at me right now. I just know it. It's okay. Calm down. It'll be fine. We'll fix it when it becomes important. Right now, it's not important. Okay. Let's see. The market was the busiest place in the neighborhood, and the, let's see, 50 or more people hanging around proved as such. Tents were erected along all four corners of the market square, each one manned by a person in a traditional cook's clothing. Again, who knows what the heck they wear. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, market was the busiest place in the neighborhood, and the 50 or more people hanging around proved as such. Tents let's see. Tents were erected along all four corners of the market square, each one who was burning some type of flesh, mostly of the oceanic variety, and tents were erected along all four corners of the market square, each one manned by a person who was burning some type of flesh. And with a center tent erected to house the community tables where visitors could eat their meals. The bakery, one of the only, let's see, food sources in the area. Actually, no, hold on. Market was the busiest place in the neighborhood, and the 50 or more people hanging around proved as such. Tents were erected along all four corners of the market square, each one manned by a person in a blank who was burning some type of flesh, mostly of the oceanic variety, with a center tent erected to house community tables. Eat their meals. The bakery, which was off to the side of the market square, was the only food source in the area to exist inside of a wooden building. Into a secured wooden building. Bakery, which was off to the side of the market square, was the only food source in the area to exist inside of a secured wooden building. Even as Jack dreamed of bread, he could smell it coming off of the smoke that billowed out of the bakery's chimney. He felt around in his pocket for any guilder or cent capable of buying him a pastry tonight. But first he bought some fish. A meal without meat was a dinner that deserved no treat. Okay. And that was a principle he had spent 23 years in the Carolinas learning. That was a principle he had spent 23 years in the Carolinas learning about and adopting without sass. Alright, let's take a quick pause. I'm going to take a quick pause here, kind of gather my thoughts on what I want to do next. I'm going to put another little break here between just to give you a chance to go get a drink or do something other than listen to me babble on about scenery. So I'll be back in a little while with some more after I think this through a bit, and I'll see you soon. So I gave myself a little bit of time to research the whole deal with Kirisu in the 18th century. There are a couple things I want to change just in the way the things I looked at. The building, I want to call it the secured colonial building. This time the buildings in Wilhelmstad were all multicolored, so I'll call it secured teal colored colonial building. And then the other thing is apparently there's one of the weird things that they eat, and I don't know if it's true of the 18th century, but it doesn't say that it isn't, is that they also eat goat. So so first he bought some fish with a side of goat meat. He wasn't sure he would even like it, but a meal without meal, blah blah blah. So that's something I think I can work with. So the other thing I was looking at is the language of Kirisu. So there are English speakers that are certainly there now. I don't know about then, but there's two primary languages. One's called Papiamentu and the other is, of course, Dutch. So I think a lot of our problems that he's going to face while he's on the island is he's just a language barrier, because he doesn't speak their language. He speaks English. Now, going back to the gambling den, I don't know. I may have to make some adjustments there at some point. But I think moving forward, we can kind of keep that in mind, is that he probably doesn't know how to actually talk to anyone who's a native there. So just something to consider. Okay. Okay, so, but first he bought some lunch or some fish with a side of good meat. Wasn't sure he didn't like it, but a meal without meat was dinner that served. Let's see, he spent just over a guilder for both meats, a side of what kind of vegetables do they have? They have plantations here. We'll just say a side of oranges for now until I can get a better sense of the kind of food that they grow. He spent, let's see, a guilder and some cents for both meats, a side of oranges, and a cup of water. Once his belly is satisfied and he wiped the grease, wiped the goat grease off the sides of his mouth, he jogged to the bakery to find that it was still open, and the baker was happy to see him. Hello the baker said, and papiamento, which means I have to look up some words there. Let's see. Jack nodded at the baker. He wasn't sure what the man was saying, but the smile was not at all hostile. Hello, Jack said. Also in papiamento, but a bad version of it. What can I get you? Okay. Jack just stared at the man in the market. All he had to do was show up and point, and the cook knew exactly what to give him. Here at the bakery, however, all of the bread was behind a counter, so pointing at it was much tougher. Nevertheless, he gave it a try. Bread, he said. English. The baker followed his finger to the loaf of rye beside the wheat loaf that he actually wanted. The baker picked up the loaf, the rye, and placed it on a sheet of paper. Jack shook his head and pointed again. No, that one there. The baker stopped mid-wrap and followed his finger again. He smiled as he recognized what he was pointing at. Ah, the baker said. He put the rye loaf back in position and took the wheat loaf instead, as the baker slid the bread onto the wrapping paper. Jack took a large whiff and grinned no matter how his first night in Curacao may have started, his ending, let's see, it was about to get much better thanks to this fresh loaf of hot wheat bread. Alright, yep, 18th century, not very heavy standards here. As he, let's see, the best part was that best part was that it had cost him only 20 cents for the entire loaf. He was expecting to pay. He had expected to pay much more for something so delicious as wheat bread. Oh my gosh. When he exited the bakery, he stepped back into the marketplace and held his loaf close to his chest. He didn't know how many people would try to rob him of it, but he was certain that if they tried, they would have to kill him first and pry it off of him later. When he exited the bakery, he stepped back in the market, waiting in the house, try and rob him of it, but he was certain that if they tried, they would kill him first. There was no way he would give up something so wonderful so easily. So do I want to end that? I don't think. So one thing you want to do on every scene is we want to make sure we're turning the scene. So are we ending in or are we starting in a positive or a negative? Well, we're starting in a negative because he's starting having just lost his money. So we need to end this on a positive when he exited. So fortunately, no one was interested in his bread. So he skipped along the walkways back to his we'll just say back to his hotel. No one was interested, so he kept along the walkways back to his hotel without incident. Okay. So the other thing, let me go back up a little bit here. So the cool breeze, actually want the trade wind, not the ocean breeze. So the cool trade winds from the nearby ocean. Washed over his face. So down here, feeling the ocean breeze on him. Okay. Yeah, so let's just dump this line. I don't have any use for it. Alright, so we're at 11:54 right now. We're going to end the scene here. So we'll take another quick pause, and we'll do some stuff in the hotel when we come back in a little while. Okay, so I guess we're going to do the hotel next, and we'll probably end the scene in the evening on that. I'm kind of... I got more I can write. I don't know if we're going to hit 2,000 tonight. I'm not sure that we need to. Excuse me. Okay. When Jack and his troop had first gotten off the boat, they all agreed to meet at the nearest hotel or nearest building with a sign on the front. Since none of them had actually been to Curacao before, this trip was in part organized by the theater, by their theater company, which had its home base in England. But the organizer was not able to make the trip due to not wanting to leave England. That had actually been oops. And when Jack and his troop had first gotten out the boat, they all agreed to meet at the nearest building with a sign on the front. Since none of them had actually been to Curacao before, this trip was in part organized by the theater company, which had some base in England, but the organizer was not able to make the trip due to not wanting to leave England. They did not know precisely where to stay. They assumed that any building with a sign on it would be would not be a private residence, and instead and they would have greater luck staying there. They assume that any building with a sign on it would not be a private residence. Alright, screw it. It's fine. Just move on. Building they found fitting this requirement was called I think I want to give it the actual name, but then do I want to do Google Translate? It's called something which translated into English meant the ugly place. Alright, so I have the translation open. We're going to find the ugly place. It's not in German though. It's going to be... do I have pimiento in here? Poppy or... Nope. Not poppy, whatever it's called. So we'll do Dutch. It'll be... So delete plaque. Hit copy. Delete click. Tippy tappy type. And this will be italicized. How about which in English translated to the ugly place? Okay. Okay, when Jack and his troop had first gotten off the boat, they all agreed to meet at the nearest building with a sign on the front, with a sign on its front. Since none of them had actually been a curiosity before the trip. It's home base in England. Stay. The sign on it would not be. Let's see. And they would have better luck finding a public place to stay or to rent for the night. Found fitting, trying to remember what it's called. They once they learned what the Dutch name meant, they immediately agreed, building that had, let's see, broken plywood and its reception area and slime caked on its walls was far from being muy plic. Or the pretty place. Doot, doot. Okay. Anybody out there who speaks Dutch, if Google Translate has it wrong, please let me know. All right. Let's see, maybe dried slime. Let's see. Building they found. Okay, so when Jack and his troop had first gotten out the boat, they all agreed to meet at the nearest building with a sign on its front. Since none of them had actually been to Curacao before, this trip was in part organized by the theater company, which based in England, but the organizer was not able to make the trip due to not wanting to leave England. They did not know precisely where to stay. They assumed that any building with a sign on it would not be a private residence, and they would have better luck finding a public place to rent for the night. The building they found fitting this requirement was called De Lekkie G. Plek, which in English translated to the ugly place. Once they learned what the Dutch meant, they immediately agreed. Building that red broken plywood in its reception area and dried slime caked on its walls is far from being the mooie plek or the pretty place. They were, let's see, once they learned of the meeting, they all mutually agreed that it was perhaps the best place to stay, for it would undoubtedly be the cheapest place to stay. Let's see. Ernest, the troop's leader, was skeptical of the idea, as he had spent many nights in his life staying at ugly hotels for prices that were anything but cheap. As he had spent many nights in his life staying at ugly hotels for prices that were anything but cheap. Granted, he, along with everyone else, was not certain that Curacao, let's say Willemstad had different, had different standards. He, along with everyone else, was not, and those offered to him in London what followed. But he wasn't ready to believe that this was their best option, so he had suggested that they all take some time today to explore the town and report back here with the best findings. Explore town for better options and report back here. Jack had agreed with his troop members that he would keep an eye open for a good deal as he moved about the town, but part of being a good teammate was to help the team find something to agree on, as he actually moved westward toward the seedier part of Willemstad. However, he had completely forgotten to fulfill his part of the plan, and by the time he had reached the gambling den, he hadn't contributed a single comparison to the discussion. He hadn't set himself up to contribute. Okay. And then that means I need to do, because I had talked about lunch before, when Jack and his troop had first gotten off the boat, they all agreed to meet. Spelling was signed in the front, since none of them had been actually blah, blah, blah. After they stopped for lunch, actually, hold on. Jack and Stu had first gotten off the boat, and let's see, maybe after. During lunch, Jack had agreed he would keep an eye open for a good deal and about the town. Along with his other troop. Good deal about the town. So now that he had reached the ugly place and failed to find anyone he recognized, so now that he had reached the ugly place, he had to come up with something quickly so he wouldn't appear lazy or incompetent to his troop mates. Three of his mates were already there waiting for the others. Were already there in the reception area waiting for the others. Each of them had a cup of wine in hand. Cheers, they said to him as he approached from the entrance. He had to veer around a pile of plywood to reach them. Cheers, he replied. He took a seat beside Regina, the troop's lead actress, but star actress. Let's see. It's Ernest, the troop's leader, did not seem to like his invasiveness. There were plenty of other empty chairs in the room, all of which were farther away from Regina, which is how Ernest often said he preferred things. Ernest, in turn, was in the other chair beside her. Check. Okay. Oh, got 3 words to document goal. Look at that. Jack took a seat beside Regina, the troop's star actress. Ernest, the troop's leader, did not seem to like this invasiveness. There were plenty of other chairs in the room for... I'll hit exactly. Oops. for Jack to take, all of which are farther away from Regina. And then the one empty. See, then the one Jack had actually taken, which is how Ernest Hopkins said he preferred things. He had his hand on Regina's armrest while Regina in turn had her hand overlapping had both of her hands overlapping on the opposite armrest. It did not seem to like this. And based on this, there were plenty of other empty chairs in the room for Jack to take. And the one Jack had actually taken, which is how Ernest often said he preferred things. Ernest in turn was in the other chair. His hand on Regina's armrest. Regina in turn had both of her hands on armrest. The one closer to Jack. Jack noticed how close her hands were now to him, and it made his skin prickle, made the skin of his neck prickle just a bit. This is kind of similar to what would happen to Jimmy Knightley at the Cannonball City stories, which again I think I made it clear in the other video. Or I don't know, I might have said it in the video I never posted, but this story is supposed to be not a prequel, but it's like in the universe of the modern day fantasy stories or the Cannonball City stories. It's 250 years earlier, roughly more than that. It's like 260 years earlier, but it's in the same universe, so there's gonna be a little bit of overlap in some of the stuff that we might see, I believe. I'm pretty sure that the pirate group that's going to show up later in the story is going to be the precursor to the pirates that we'll see far into the series of modern day fantasy, which I still haven't got anywhere close to that point, and we'll see if we ever do get there. But anyway, just some trivia. Alright, so Jack took a seat beside Regina, the troop star actress. Ernest, the troop's leader, did not seem to like his invasiveness. There were plenty of other blah blah. Okay. So, what did you find? Ernest asked. Anything we can pull together? And Jack smiled. Of course, he said. I found the best place ever. Ernest leaned closer to him, unashamedly draping over Regina's armrest. She recoiled slightly at his intrusion. Yeah, and Jack pointed at the front entrance. It's out there, he said. Yeah, and Jack kissed his thumb and forefinger. It serves the best bread. He with his other hand, he showed them the bread he had bought. Sleep, I mean, said Ernest. Oh, I could sleep there all day. It's so delicious. Jack had yet to eat any of his bread, as he had been waiting for the right time and place to do so. As he looked at his fellow troop members, he decided that this was the time, or no, sorry, that now was the time and this was the place. He broke off a small chunk of wheat bread and popped it in his mouth. It was still warm and moist. Wonderful, he said. Ernest looked at the loaf. Care to share? He asked. Jack broke off another piece and passed it to Regina, who took it for herself and ate it. Her cheeks puckered with delight and her eyes lit up in the relative dimness of the candle-lit room. Jack took another piece for himself. Ernest, meanwhile, held out his hand for a piece, but Jack would not give him one. Instead, he broke off another piece for Regina. She accepted with a smile on her face. Ernest, getting the hint, backed off and folded his arms over his chest. For that, he said, "You get to play the sheep tomorrow." Jack frowned. He had apparently crossed the line. Boom. 2,000 words even. We're going to call it a night. I'm kind of tired, and this video I think is going on way longer than I intended. And yeah, I think we'll continue tomorrow. I'm not feeling it today, to be honest. And part of it is just, there's a lot of description, but just today's been kind of a block kind of afternoon. I was hoping to get a lot more done. I had a lot more ideas for this scene in this moment, but I think we're gonna we'll continue tomorrow. It's fine. It may take till day 4 to get to the play, but we'll be fine. All right, so let's go ahead and update our tracking elements real quick. So my actual word count was 2,000 even, and our total will now be 4414. Okay, let me just make sure. Let's check our target. Make sure it adds up. Yep, 4414. That's mathematics, folks. So I'll fill up my post session off camera. You guys don't need to watch that, and I'll fill in my day 2 synopsis over here. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't too dull this time. I feel like yesterday was a little more exciting. But that's, the point is that sometimes it'll go that way. You'll never know when you're writing. Sometimes, you have the best day with the most energy and everything just works out, and there's others where you'll even have a vision for, the details. You know what you want to accomplish, but as you go into it, you realize you have no picture of what's happening or no sense of how to describe it. And I just think today was one of those days for me. So I do get them. They happen, sometimes frequently, sometimes not. At some point, I may show you guys to some of my resources that I have to help me with vocabulary and things. These are things I'm not going to do while I'm filming because that would take too long and that's not exciting to watch, but it's still useful for, anytime we write without public view. It's worth it to use the resources we have. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you all tomorrow, hopefully. Please come back. And don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, do all the stuff that you would do for the videos that have motion and people in it. Thanks. All right, bye.